Today we have a story time sent in by a subscriber of when his little cousin actually thought that Huggy Wuggy was not just real in real life, but also was actually after him. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into it. So we're going to call the subscriber Miles, and I got that name from the comments, so leave a comment of a name you'd like me to use, and comment it a few times as I'll have a better chance of actually seeing it and using it. Anyways, right, so this story comes from the subscriber who we're calling Miles. And so, right, Miles has this cousin, and this cousin is the Minecraft kid, because it's kind of unrelated to the story, but a little mini story is his cousin actually had to have his entire computer taken away for an entire week because when his mom said, hey, it's time for you to go to bed, he stayed up for the entire night playing Minecraft. And the only reason his mom knows this is she had to get up to go to the bathroom at 4 in the morning, and she saw she heard noise coming from the cousin's room, and she goes in there and sure enough he's playing Bed Wars or something. So that's why he was kind of known in the family as the Minecraft kid. But anyways, right, Miles, a subscriber, his aunt, aka the mother of his cousin, asks him very politely hey, I know this is kind of an ask, but this Saturday I'm gonna need you to come over and just watch over him. I have to be out. I will pay you $20, so it'll be worth your time, but I'll pay you $20 and just come and watch him. He's really no problem at all. He'll probably just sit there playing Minecraft anyway, so you'll be fine. And so, Miles, the subscriber, yeah, there's some other things he wants to do, but hey, he's got to get that bag, and I do respect that, and I understand where he's coming from, and he also wants to be good to his aunt. You always got to be there for family, if you know what I mean. But anyways, right, so on that Saturday, sure enough, Miles is dropped off by his mom, and he goes in, and the aunt of his cousin's oh, Miles, thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate you doing this. I know it's a big ask to take away, your Saturday, at least for the day itself. And Miles said, hey, it's really no big problem. Appreciate you paying me, right? And she's of course, the least I can do. So anyway, she's Miles, not Miles. We're just going to call him Minecraft Kid. The aunt goes, Minecraft Kid, which is the cousin of Miles, come down here and say hi to Miles, he's here. And the cousin actually runs down the stairs and is pretty happy to see Miles. And I don't know about you, but whenever family or just, little kids or whatever who are really excited to see you and they come running down with these big eyes, I don't know, man, it always makes me feel good. But anyways, right, Miles comes running out, he's oh, dang it, I messed up the names again. It's not Miles running down, it's the cousin. We're going to call the cousin Ben because that's the standard name I use when I need a name real quick. So Ben is the Minecraft kid, aka the cousin. So Ben comes running down the stairs. He's oh, Miles, I'm so excited to see you. Look what I did in Minecraft. I built this big, whatever, right? Etc. Whatever happens. And sure enough, Ben's mom is all right, thank you so much, Miles, for coming. I gotta go now. And anyways, right, so Miles is kind of the de facto babysitter for the day, and they're kind of just instructed to chill here for most of the day. However, if they get bored, they're allowed to go to the park. So anyways, right, at first, Miles and Ben, they play a little Minecraft together. Miles doesn't really play that much himself, but, he plays enough to be able to hold his own in the game. And obviously, Ben plays all the time. That's why he's also known as the Minecraft Kid. But anyways, right, so Ben and Miles, they're playing a bit, but, they just kind of get bored, or at least, Miles is down to do whatever because he's the babysitter. But, Ben gets a little bit bored and he says, all right, I'm kind of done with this. Do you want to go to the park? And let me just say that everything, basically, it hits the fan at the park. What I'm trying to say is, things get bad at the park. That's when the story gets interesting. Miles could have avoided everything that's about to transpire if he just said, nah, we're staying here. But unfortunately, man, Miles did not say we're staying here. Instead, they went to the park. To be fair, Miles would have had no insight or no possibility to know how bad things were about to get or how crazy and ridiculous things were about to get. So he wouldn't have known, but in retrospect, hindsight's 20/20 or whatever the saying is. But anyways, so they get to the park, and the entire car ride over, Miles notices that Ben, his cousin, by the way, just in case you forgot the names, Miles, the subscriber, realizes that his little cousin Ben he's just looking a little weird. He's looking a little nervous. He's kind of looking out kind of frantically. His eyes are darting out. His legs are kind of dangling back and forth as kind of a nervous little tick or something. And so Miles kind of looks at him as, they're, driving over, and, Miles is hey, man, are you good? And so Miles kind of looks at him and says, hey, man, what's wrong? What's good? Is everything all right? And, Ben kind of looks up at him and he's kind of just thinking for a second. And, Ben has this kind of nervous look and Miles is just like, all right, something's definitely up. And then eventually, Ben says, all right, I'm just a little nervous that this creature it's after me. Like, it's gonna sound dumb, but I think Huggy Wuggy is after me. Remember, Miles is in first grade. So this is not like some 17-year-old kid being like, oh no, Huggy Wuggy's gonna get me. So anyways, right, Miles just kind of like looks at him and says, Ben, you don't need to worry about that. Huggy Wuggy is not real. He's from a video game. And Ben's like, but my older brother, and he says his older brother's name, but too many names, I'm going to mix them up. He's like, but my older brother showed me this video and said that, like, it was, like, real, and it was from, like, the dark web, and it's, like, a video of him, like, actually, I know he's in a video game, but apparently he's, like, based on real life, and it's, like, this leaked video that, like, the CIA was trying to, like, keep under wraps. And at this point, right, Miles just kind of looks at Ben and is like, Ben, that story is so convoluted. Do you think either, one, that, this big, blue, magical creature who's after you, apparently, is actually real, that the FBI wanted to keep secret but allowed to be a full-fledged video game and allowed the leak of a video on the dark web, or, option 2 here, your brother made that up? And sure enough, Ben kind of looks at him and is like, yeah, I guess. But even then, Miles kind of had a feeling that, Ben was not 100% on board, that while he did believe, he was, like, starting to see the issues, Miles could tell that Ben was still a little bit nervous, a little bit rattled. So Miles is like, all right, well, we're at the park, so don't even think about that, man. That's nothing to be worried about. And as they're getting out of the car is when everything just completely crumbles. Everything gets mad crazy. But before that, if you made it this far into the video, which I mean you did, you're listening to this, comment Huggy Wuggy down below. That's the secret word of the video. And I'm going to be hearting a bunch of comments, or as many as I can. Comment it maybe 2, 3, 4+ times. Don't comment it more than 4 times though, if you want a better chance of me actually seeing it and you getting a heart. And also, while you're down there, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Anyways, let's get back to the story. So right now, right, Miles is in the driver's seat of the car, and they park on, like, the parking lot or really close to the park. They step out and they're in the park, and Ben gets out of, like, his seat. He starts walking out, and, Miles is unbuckling his kind of buckle and about to get out of the car when he hears Miles scream, ah! At this point, right, not Miles, Ben screams, ah! And at this point, Miles is like, oh my God, like, what's happening? And then he looks at Ben, and Ben has this terrified look on his face. And Miles was genuinely scared because he's like, oh my God, like, that's a look of, like, pure fear. Like, what could have incited this in him? Like, what could he have seen to, like, have such a reaction? Because, like, God damn, I'm scared myself. But then, Ben follows it up from saying, ah, to saying, it's Huggy Wuggy, he's after me. And then Ben sprints. And little kids are fast. And Ben was not just your average little kid. Ben, even though he sat around playing Minecraft all day, he was also extraordinarily fast. So Miles, after turning around to see what Ben was screaming at, turns back around to look where Ben was. He's not there, and he's like, very far away. He's already had like 5 seconds of sprinting on Miles. And Miles is like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not losing this kid. So Miles gets out of the car. He unbuckles himself. He starts jogging over. He's like, Ben, stop running. I don't know what you saw, but it wasn't what you think. And he just hears in the distance Ben going, ah. So Miles starts like jogging over. He's like, Ben, wait, stop running, stop. And at this point, right, Ben goes around a corner. He's like, oh, shoot, like I lost sight of him. Because, like, even if Ben was, like, running and he was pretty far away, as long as Miles had, like, at least eyes on him, eventually Ben would get burnt out, stop running, or at least stop being scared, or at least feel like he was far enough away from whatever he was running from. But the second that, like, Ben turned that corner, it was just kind of a big risk. And at this point, right, Miles eventually jogs over, gets to the corner, turns around, looks, and Ben is just nowhere to be seen. And he's like, you gotta be kidding me. Because while Ben had access to a computer, obviously, to play Minecraft that much, he didn't have access to a phone. So Ben was kind of just out there without any connection and, real no way for him to know. So at this point, right, Miles was faced with kind of a two-way street, or at least two directions. Ben could have run. It was like one was going, or not two-way street. There was two directions. He could have gone down the street, or he could have gone left to this path. And Miles is just looking at this like, I have a 50-50 shot of going down the right direction. And Miles is like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to choose one of these randomly. Thankfully, right, luck was on his side. A little spoiler. But anyways, right, so, he decides to keep going down the street. Miles decides to keep going down the street, and it's like, all right, I gotta find Ben. He's like, Ben. He starts yelling out. He's like, Ben, like, I'm here. Like, I don't know what you're screaming about, but trust me, it's nothing. And eventually, right, as, Miles is kind of jogging, he's like, Ben, where are you? Eventually, he sees Ben at the very end of the road. And, he starts going up. He's like, Ben, like, you can't run off like that. And then he realizes the Ben is in the yard of some random person. He's not just in the yard of some random person. He has locked himself within the fence of some random person. And at this point, right, he runs up to him. He's like, Ben, you got to get out of there. That's someone's house. And Ben looks at him. He's like, how do I not know you're Huggy Wuggy in disguise? And at this point, right, Miles just has this look on his face like, you got to be kidding me, bro. You cannot be serious. And so Miles is like, all right, I obviously got to play along with this. He's like, all right, how can I prove that I'm not actually Huggy Wuggy? And Ben kind of looks at him like, what's my middle name? And for a second, Miles was like, oh, shoot, I actually don't know this kid's middle name. And he's like, and Ben gives him this look like, if you don't get it, you're actually Huggy Wuggy, right? Which is completely illogical, but whatever, right? He's a first grader. And Miles is like, shoot. But then for some reason, he remembers, Miles's like mother, or no, Ben's mother, recalling the story of when she caught Ben like playing video games at 4:30 in the morning. And during the story, she said that she called out to Ben Jonathan Jordan, because that's like his full name or whatever, or it's a random name, but Ben Jonathan Jordan, what are you doing at this hour? And it's like, as he remembered that, right, Miles was like, Jordan. Wait, I think I said Jonathan. He's like, Jonathan. And then he looks, and Ben looks at him like, you're actually my cousin. Like, oh my God. He unlocks himself, and he goes in for like a big hug, and he's like kind of crying. At this point, right, the subscriber's feeling kind of bad. He's like, all right, like, this was ridiculous. But he's like, you know what, Ben, don't worry about it. Let's just walk back to the car. And as they're walking back to the car, the subscriber's just kind of looking around. Miles is just kind of looking around, like, what could have set him off? And as he's getting to the car, he looks in the store window, and he sees that there's, like, construction being done within the store, and there's this big blue tarp. So apparently when Miles was like, or not Miles, when Ben was kind of like freaking out about like, oh, Huggy Wuggy's going to get him, he just kind of like got out of the car and looked briefly at the door window, and he saw this big kind of dark blue thing, blob, and then he turned away super quickly to run away. That's essentially what at least Miles was thinking. He didn't want to ask Ben, just in case the slight chance Ben looks at it, is like, oh my God, it's Huggy Wuggy, and then runs away again, and he has to do the whole thing again, because he's not doing that again, bro. That's just simply not happening. That's just not happening, dude. So anyways, they get in the car, and, Ben is just like, hey, I'm so sorry, and Miles is like, dude, don't worry about it. Let's just go home. Let's play some Minecraft. Let's just do something chill. So if you remember at the beginning of the story, or kind of towards the middle, when Ben explained to Miles why he thought Huggy Wuggy was real and about to get him, he explained that it was his older brother that made up this tale and told him. And the thing is, right, Miles was kind of mad because, like, he was this close to losing Ben, and he barely got him back. So when Ben's moms got back, the aunt or whatever, Miles decided to have a little chat with her, being like, don't get mad at Ben, he didn't know any better. And then he went on to explain that it was Ben's brother and told him everything. And the aunt and, Ben's mom / the aunt's like, oh, well, that's very interesting. He will be having a talking to when he gets back. And so Miles walks out. He's like, hey, he looks at Ben. Ben's like, I'm so sorry again. And Miles just looks at him like, dude, don't worry about it. Also, by the way, I don't think your brother will be telling you tall tales like that anytime soon.